You know that feeling when a group just clicks, when ideas flow effortlessly, and suddenly you've created something far better, more innovative, really more impactful than anything a single person could have dreamed up alone.
Yeah, that's synergy.
That precise moment of collective genius is the magic we're diving into today. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the wisdom of your sources to help you become truly well-informed. Today, in our 6th deep dive into Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we're tackling the habit that represents the culmination of all the others, Synergize.
It really does bring everything together.
Right. And this isn't just about showing up for a team meeting, is it? It's about a profound principle of creative cooperation.
Exactly. It transforms good ideas into groundbreaking ones, pushing boundaries and forging entirely new paths.
It sounds quite powerful.
What's truly fascinating here is that synergy, at its core, embodies this powerful idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
We hear that phrase a lot.
We do, but it's not just additive, it's profoundly multiplicative. We're talking about combining different strengths, wildly different perspectives, specialized skills, varied experiences to produce something entirely new and demonstrably superior.
Right.
Covey famously calls this a third alternative. It's a solution that no individual working in isolation or even through simple compromise could ever achieve.
So not just meeting in the middle.
Not at all. And this isn't just an isolated habit, you see. It's the profound culmination of many of the habits we've discussed so far. It truly catapults you into the realm of interdependence, where leveraging diverse relationships becomes this powerful, almost alchemical creative force.
Okay, so our mission today is to uncover not just what synergy is, but to really dig deep into why it absolutely demands high trust and genuine, maybe even vulnerable cooperation.
That's crucial, the trust element.
We'll explore how truly diverse perspectives don't just add to the conversation, but actively fuel innovation, pushing past the status quo, pushing past those entrenched ways of thinking.
Getting unstuck.
Exactly. And critically, we'll look at how you, whether you're a leader orchestrating a complex project or maybe a team member contributing your unique voice, how you can cultivate environments where these powerful, transformative third alternatives can truly flourish.
Practical steps.
Get ready to fundamentally rethink how you collaborate. So let's unpack this core concept first, because the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's a phrase we hear often. But what does that really mean in the context of synergy, especially as Stephen Covey describes it?
Yeah, let's get specific.
And how does it go beyond what we typically think of as just, teamwork?
Well, Covey certainly doesn't mince words here. He paints a pretty vivid picture. He posits that the essence of synergy is when 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 2,
Right.
but can equal 8 or 16, or he even says 1600.
Wow, okay, so exponential.
Exactly. It's not just an additive process where you simply combine individual efforts. It's profoundly multiplicative. Think about it. If you have 2 people, each contributing 1 unit of effort or insight, simple arithmetic suggests their combined output is 2.
Makes sense.
But synergy suggests that when those 2 people truly interact creatively, when their ideas bounce off each other, when they challenge and build, their combined output isn't just double, it's exponentially greater.
Because they spark something new in each other.
Precisely. They're sparking new insights, connecting seemingly disparate elements and concepts in ways neither could have conceived alone. This isn't just about efficiency or getting more done. It's about revolutionary, often unexpected outcomes.
That immediately makes me think about how crucial it is to differentiate this from just doing group work.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, we've all been in groups where it felt like everyone just did their individual part, stapled it together, and called it a team effort.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely not synergy.
So that's clearly not what we're talking about here.
You've hit on a crucial distinction there. As The Discipline of Teams by Katzenbach and Smith highlights, it's absolutely critical to distinguish true synergy from mere group work or just a collection of individuals. If a performance outcome can simply result from adding up individual contributions, then a single leader discipline, or even just individuals working in parallel, is often sufficient. You don't necessarily need a high-performing team for that.
Right, you just need coordination.
Yeah. True team discipline, and thus synergy, implies something much deeper. It means that individuals acting alone genuinely won't have all the answers, all the necessary skills, or the complete perspective.
So you need each other.
You need each other. This requires genuine mutual accountability and a commitment to collective results. The authors describe it as the team itself having a learning challenge, meaning its members must grow and develop together, often acquiring new skills or understanding to achieve the desired outcome, rather than just contributing pre-existing static knowledge.
A learning challenge. I like that.
It's a dynamic, evolving, and often transformative process for the individuals involved.
So it's not about compromising, like I want red, you want blue, let's just do purple and satisfy nobody fully. It's about something entirely new.
Precisely. Covey introduces the powerful and truly liberating concept of the third alternative.
The third alternative.
Synergy isn't about compromise where you negotiate between my way or your way, or even find a lukewarm middle ground that leaves everyone partially satisfied but nobody truly thrilled. No.
Okay.
It's about generating something entirely new. A third alternative that isn't just a blend, but a genuine innovation, objectively superior to any initial proposal.
Superior to both starting points.
Yes. What's truly insightful here is that this isn't just about combining ideas, it's about a fundamental shift in how we approach conflict or diverging views. It's moving from an either or a my way or your way mentality,
Which is so common.
To a what else is possible if we completely rethink the problem perspective. This is where true breakthroughs happen, often by questioning the very assumptions that led to the initial two options, breaking free from those constraints.
This sounds almost too good to be true in practice sometimes, but it also deeply resonates. Think about a time you were stuck between two options, both feeling inadequate, like a concession, or just plain unsatisfied.
And we've all been there.
Synergy offers a way to move beyond that frustration, to transcend the limitations of existing choices and create something truly novel. But what's the biggest mental hurdle, you think, that prevents people from even believing a third alternative is possible, let alone actively seeking it out?
That's a fantastic and critical question, because it does feel revolutionary when you're caught in that trap of either-or. One of the biggest hurdles is simply habits. We're conditioned to think in binaries, to compromise, to assume resources are scarce,
Default settings.
Exactly, default settings. Another significant block is ego. Admitting that your initial idea wasn't the absolute best or that there's a solution entirely outside of your original frame of reference can be tough for anyone. We often become attached to our own solutions.
Understandable.
But perhaps the most profound block, and something we'll dig into more, is a lack of trust. If I don't trust you, if I feel you're operating from a hidden agenda, I'm certainly not going to open myself up to a completely new idea that might make my own look incomplete. Or worse, expose my vulnerabilities.
Right, you hold back.
You hold back. Without that foundation of trust, the cognitive work, the creative work of finding a third alternative becomes incredibly difficult, if not downright impossible.
Okay, so this third alternative sounds like the holy grail of collaboration. But as you just mentioned, and as we instinctively know, to create something truly new, to share those nascent, perhaps half-formed ideas, you have to be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah, takes courage.
To look vulnerable, maybe even look foolish sometimes. That brings us to the absolute bedrock of synergy, cultivating high trust and genuine openness.
Absolutely. Covey is exceptionally clear on this point. Synergy is only possible in an environment where trust and cooperation are not just present, but high.
Not just okay, but high.
High. Without these fundamental elements, people simply won't feel safe enough to expose their true opinions, their unique experiences, or, as Covey puts it rather delicately, their tender feelings.
Tender feelings, yeah.
They won't truly open up and share the unique perspectives, the unvarnished insights, and the sometimes fragile ideas that are absolutely essential for generating those transformative third alternatives. It's a fundamental prerequisite. You can't build a synergistic outcome on a foundation of skepticism or fear.
And he talks about the emotional bank account here, right?
Yeah.
As in, you need enough deposits in that account to even begin to have these kinds of vulnerable conversations.
Yes, the emotional bank account is not just critical, it's the practical mechanism for building that trust reservoir, as you said. Think of it as the trust level in any relationship, personal or professional.
Right.
High emotional bank accounts are the bedrock of win-win relationships and the ideal springboard for synergy, because when that account is full, minor disagreements or inevitable missteps don't derail everything.
You have some buffer.
You have buffer. These accounts are built through consistent, often small deposits, showing genuine courtesy, demonstrating respect for others' ideas even if you disagree, offering heartfelt appreciation for contributions, and, crucially, fulfilling commitments, actually doing what you say you'll do.
That last one's big.
It's huge. When there are enough deposits, credibility isn't even an issue. People are focused on the ideas, the issues at hand, not on personal agendas, past slights, or defending positions.
Takes the personality out of it.
Exactly. This creates an environment where individuals instinctively know they will be listened to with respect, even if they hold radically different views. That psychological safety, that feeling of being valued no matter what, is paramount for genuine dialogue and for people to truly open up and share their most sensitive thoughts without fear.
So it's not about one grand gesture, but the consistent, almost mundane acts of respect that really build that foundation, like the daily interactions.
Precisely. It's the consistent small deposits that truly build lasting trust, far more than any single flashy withdrawal or grand gesture.
And what happens when an emotional bank account is low? What are the immediate signs that synergy is going to be almost impossible in that environment?
Oh, the signs are immediately apparent and, frankly, debilitating for synergy. When an emotional bank account is low, every interaction is viewed with suspicion. People become defensive, listening with the intent to find fault rather than to understand.
Looking for the attack.
Looking for the attack, yeah. There's a reluctance to share information, an unwillingness to take risks or propose innovative ideas because the fear of ridicule or rejection is just too high. Communication breaks down, becoming indirect, maybe passive-aggressive or simply silent. You'll see people hoarding resources, protecting their turf, focusing on individual survival rather than collective success.
Survival mode.
Totally. In such an environment, the thought of exposing a tender feeling or a half-baked idea for the sake of a third alternative is simply out of the question. It's a crisis state for collaboration.
That makes perfect sense. But how do you actually build that trust, especially when you might have to give difficult feedback or challenge someone's performance? That can feel like a withdrawal from the emotional bank account, can't it? Unless it's handled very carefully.
It certainly can feel like a withdrawal.
Kim Scott's radical candor comes to mind here. How does that fit in?
That's a great connection, and it makes sense that you can't have true collaboration without honesty, but radical candor can sound a bit intimidating to some, right?
Yeah, the radical part.
How do we ensure that challenging directly, as Kim Scott advocates, doesn't get misinterpreted as just obnoxious aggression and actually fosters trust rather than breaking it down? Scott's radical candor offers a really powerful and practical framework for building trust through what she calls caring personally and challenging directly.
Okay, those two dimensions.
It's the intersection of those two dimensions. She advocates being direct and specific with praise, but also equally direct when challenging someone. The key is to move away from ruinous empathy, which is basically being nice to avoid discomfort, even if it ultimately hurts the individual's growth or the team's performance.
We've probably all done that.
We probably have. If you try to avoid the pain of difficult conversations, she says you make a hash of it and prolong the problem. Challenging directly when it comes from a place of genuine care is actually kind and can have a big impact on behavior quickly, precisely because it signals that you care enough about the person and their success to be honest with them.
So the caring personally part is non-negotiable.
Absolutely. It's about building a relationship where candor is expected and understood as a sign of respect rather than aggression.
The source gives a powerful example of this. Think about the bank teller. A boss who, out of maybe misguided empathy, kept saying, "You can do this," despite consistently poor performance.
Yeah, just enabling mediocrity, really.
Right? Leaving the employee miserable and stuck in a role they weren't suited for. A truly radically candid approach would have been something like, "Look, you are clearly not interested in this work, and your performance reflects that. Why don't we explore options for you to find a different job that aligns better with your strengths and interests?"
Tough conversation, but ultimately kinder.
Exactly. This directness, when combined with genuine care for the individual's long-term well-being, is foundational for building a relationship of trust, because it ultimately leads to a better outcome for everyone, even if it's uncomfortable in the moment.
And tying into this, John C. Maxwell's work on leadership is incredibly insightful here, too. He emphasizes that leadership is relational as much as it is positional.
Relational versus positional.
Positional leaders, those who rely solely on their title and authority, tend to create distance by using their power. I'm up here, you're down there, which makes people feel small, unheard, alienated.
Shuts them down.
Right. Good leaders, conversely, enlarge people. They foster genuine connections, listen deeply, and make people feel truly valued and seen. This relational approach is absolutely critical for building the kind of deep trust and psychological safety required for synergy to even begin to bloom. Without it, you get compliance, maybe, but not genuine cooperation.
Beyond these individual interactions, though, we need to think about the broader organizational environment. How do successful organizations create a safe space for learning and dialogue, especially when it comes to uncomfortable truths or completely new, untested ideas?
Yeah, scaling trust. The concept of psychological safety is absolutely key here. And it's not just a buzzword. Consider Kim and Maburn's work on blue ocean leadership.
Interesting application.
Right. They usually focus on creating uncontested market space, but they argue that leaders need to apply similar innovative thinking to their internal culture, creating what they call a safe environment for learning.
So psychological safety enables learning.
Exactly. This isn't just about being nice, it's about making it safe for people to take risks, admit mistakes, challenge assumptions, and voice dissenting opinions without fear of retribution or negative consequences.
That's a huge.
Huge. When leaders present to be leadership profiles at an aggregate, maybe anonymized level, showing that everyone is in the same boat in terms of development areas, it makes individuals far more open to change and feedback because the focus is on collective improvement and growth, not individual blame.
Takes the spotlight off the individual failure.
Right. It becomes the oxygen for synergy, especially when trying to tackle complex, novel problems that require experimentation and inevitably learning from failure.
And it's not a one-time thing, is it? You can't just declare we have psychological safety now. Right. It requires ongoing, consistent effort, not just a policy statement.
Not at all. It's a living system. Leaders are tasked with continuously passing these messages along to their direct reports, explaining how new profiles and behaviors will make them more effective, not just in their roles, but in contributing to the larger organizational purpose.
Content reinforcement.
Yes. The sources suggest regular monthly meetings to gather feedback on these transitions, with comments illustrated by specific examples like cutting back on eliminated activities or focusing on new value-adding ones. This continuous feedback loop, this ongoing dialogue, reinforces openness and demonstrates that leadership is genuinely listening and responsive, that the commitment to psychological safety is real, not just theoretical.
So it builds credibility.
It builds credibility. It's a living, breathing, evolving conversation, not a static mandate.
This also highlights the danger of creating what Lencioni called an interrogation-like atmosphere. Even when being direct, if it feels like you're on trial or being cornered, people will just shut down.
Oh, instantly.
The intention might be good, maybe trying to get clarity, but the execution can be totally counterproductive.
Precisely. In Patrick Lencioni's The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Catherine, the fictional leader, actively tries to avoid an interrogation-like atmosphere to get clear on team behaviors. While directness and accountability are crucial, the feeling of being interrogated instantly shuts down openness, honest input, and crucial debate.
Because debate is necessary,
Yeah.
right? Even in trusting teams.
Absolutely. Effective teams, even highly trusting ones, embrace a substantial level of debate. The goal isn't to suppress disagreement or critical thinking, but to channel it constructively towards better solutions.
Constructive conflict.
Exactly. This also relates to how leaders manage emotions, their own and others. If an employee, for example, says, "I didn't attend the meeting because I didn't think you valued my ideas," a leader might naturally feel defensive or question their own competence.
Sure, it's a natural reaction.
Right. But the ability to address these perceptions, manage one's own emotional response, and reframe negative thoughts, as highlighted by Harvard Business Review, is vital for maintaining psychological safety and keeping communication flowing, even when things get uncomfortable. It's about creating a space where the idea can be challenged vigorously, but the person feels safe.
So it sounds like this isn't just about the annual performance review, is it? That's way too late.
Way too late.
It's about a continuous, almost daily investment in trust through honest, constructive feedback. It's a living, breathing dialogue that constantly tops up that emotional bank account.
You've perfectly captured it. The new 1-Minute Manager by Blanchard and Johnson emphasizes giving frequent, specific feedback, including both 1-minute praisings for positive contributions and 1-minute redirects for areas needing improvement.
Quick, targeted feedback.
Quick, targeted, regular. This regular, brief dialogue makes the feedback process easier and more familiar, establishing a genuine partnership rather than a confrontational high-stakes event once a year.
Right.
Andrew Grove, in High Output Management, reinforces this, stating there should be no surprises at a performance review. It reinforces the idea that continuous, honest communication builds trust and prepares individuals for growth rather than ambushing them with criticism.
Makes sense.
This constant stream of timely, actionable communication keeps the emotional bank account topped up, making it safe to address issues, make adjustments, and truly grow together towards synergistic outcomes. It's truly about ongoing dialogue, not episodic judgment. Hashtag tag 3. Harnessing diverse perspectives for innovative solutions.
Okay, so we've established that trust and openness are absolutely non-negotiable for synergy. Once you have that foundation, the magic really happens when you bring truly diverse perspectives into the mix. It's not about everyone thinking alike, is it?
No, quite the opposite.
It's about actively valuing the differences.
That's a critical and often counterintuitive point. Covey emphasizes that synergy absolutely thrives on valuing and appreciating differences, rather than trying to homogenize viewpoints or seek conformity.
Don't smooth out the edges.
Exactly. Keep the edges. It's about approaching others through an abundance mentality paradigm, genuinely valuing their unique contributions, being curious about their distinct worldview, and even being happy for their success.
Happy for their success. That's key.
It is. This is a profound shift from a scarcity mindset, where differences might be seen as threats or sources of conflict. Instead, they become a wellspring of untapped potential. It's a mindset that says your difference isn't a problem, it's an opportunity.
And these differences aren't just about surface-level demographics or even distinct skill sets, are they? Paul Krugman talks about profoundly different styles of thinking.
Indeed, and that's a really interesting angle. In A Country Is Not a Company, Krugman powerfully illustrates this concept in a, well, rather unexpected domain. He argues that the style of thinking necessary for economic analysis is very different from that which leads to success in business.
Okay, economists versus business execs.
Right. Business executives, while undeniably impressive in their achievements, often think differently from economists. Executives tend to be focused on concrete, actionable decisions, often extrapolating from personal experience and aiming for immediate results.
Get it done now.
Get it done now. Economists, on the other hand, often deal with abstract models, statistical analysis, and long-term systemic effects. This highlights that different perspectives, not just different skill sets or backgrounds, but fundamentally distinct ways of thinking and problem-solving approaches are vital.
So different cognitive machinery.
Absolutely. When these distinct cognitive styles are brought together in an environment of trust, they can generate insights and third alternatives that neither group alone could conceive. It's a true cognitive synergy, where the friction of different intellectual approaches can generate immense heat and light.
Imagine applying this to any field engineers and artists, maybe strategists and frontline workers, even different cultural backgrounds. Each brings a unique lens that, when combined, can reveal solutions previously unseen. The challenge lies in integrating these different styles of thinking. But if these different styles of thinking are so vital, how do we, as team members or leaders, actively bridge those cognitive gaps? Is it about explicit role assignment, or is it more about creating a psychological space where, say, an economist feels comfortable challenging a business executive's assumptions, and vice versa?
That's where the art and science of synergy truly meet. It's both, actually. Explicit role assignment can help ensure diverse perspectives are present and given a platform, make sure the economist is in the room.
Right.
But it's the psychological space that allows those perspectives to interact constructively. It's about building a culture where an engineer is encouraged to articulate the artistic implications of a design, and an artist is invited to consider the engineering constraints.
Getting outside their usual box.
Yes. This means actively encouraging questions, validating divergent viewpoints, and creating processes that force groups to synthesize rather than just vote or compromise. Sometimes it involves structured brainstorming, maybe devil's advocate roles, or even just explicitly asking, if we approached this problem from a completely different disciplinary lens, what might we see?
Making it safe to challenge assumptions.
Exactly. It's a deliberate effort to make the unfamiliar familiar and to respectfully interrogate each other's assumptions.
Covey even delves into brain dominance theory, right? Left brain versus right brain thinking, and how we often favor one.
He does, and it's another facet of valuing diverse thinking. Covey discusses how the left hemisphere of the brain is typically associated with logical, verbal, analytical processing, focusing on parts, sequences, specifics.
Intellectual side.
Right. The right hemisphere, conversely, is seen as more intuitive, creative, and holistic, dealing with wholes, synthesis, simultaneous understanding. He notes that we live in a primarily left-brain dominant world, where logic, measurement, and linear thinking are often prioritized and rewarded.
Numbers and processes.
Numbers and processes. Synergy, however, actively encourages cultivating good crossover between both sides of the brain, meaning using the appropriate tool or approach for the situation and leveraging those natural differences between individuals. It's about holistic thinking, not just analytical breakdowns, and celebrating individuals who naturally lean into that right brain creative space.
Which immediately makes me think of that famous Maslow analogy. He that is good with a hammer tends to think everything is a nail.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the insidious limitation of a single perspective. If you only have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
You'll miss things.
You'll not only miss the opportunities that require a screwdriver or a wrench, but you might also damage the nail by trying to force it with the wrong tool.
True.
What's truly insightful about synergy here is that it's not just about accumulating tools, it's about building the whole toolkit, understanding what each tool is for, and then, crucially, knowing how to use them together in novel combinations.
Using the right tool for the job, or even inventing a new one.
Exactly. It's about designing the right tool for the right job, and sometimes that right tool is a combination no one had thought of before. This requires a profound appreciation for what each tool, each perspective brings to the table, even if it seems counterintuitive or even challenging at first.
So it's about actively seeking out the non-hammer perspectives, even when your default is to reach for what's comfortable or familiar. It sounds like an intentional act of humility almost, admitting your hammer might not be enough.
It absolutely requires intellectual humility.
So if diverse thinking is so powerful, why do organizations often resist it? It seems innovation often originates outside existing organizations, rather than being nurtured from within. Why is that?
It's the innovator's dilemma in action, isn't it? As Guy Kawasaki notes in Art of the Start 2.0, innovation often originates outside existing organizations, in part because successful organizations acquire a commitment to the status quo.
They get comfortable.
And a resistance to ideas that might change it. They become victims of their own success. Their existing processes, values, and customer base are geared towards optimizing what they already do well, making it incredibly difficult to embrace truly disruptive, perhaps initially lower margin or initially clunky new ideas.
The new thing doesn't fit the old model.
It doesn't fit. Synergy, however, directly counters this by intentionally fostering an environment where new ideas, even disruptive ones that challenge the core business, are welcomed, explored, and integrated. It's about building a culture that embraces constructive disruption from within, rather than waiting for an outside force to make them obsolete.
This sounds a lot like the challenges General Stanley McChrystal faced and addresses in his book, Team of Teams, specifically. The imperative of breaking down silos in complex, rapidly changing environments.
Absolutely. His experience is a powerful case study.
For listeners unfamiliar with his work, could you give us a quick overview of why those traditional military silos, which used to be efficient, became such a liability?
Sure. McChrystal's experience leading special operations in Iraq made him realize that the traditional, hierarchical, siloed military structure, while excellent for predictable, contained operations, was utterly ineffective against a decentralized, adaptable enemy like al-Qaeda.
The environment changed.
The environment completely changed. His core insight was that rigid, top-to-bottom structures and vertical walls separating the divisions were no longer an accurate reflection of their interdependent world. Events were relevant to everyone, not just specific departments.
Information needed to flow everywhere.
Everywhere and fast. A piece of intelligence gathered by one unit might have critical implications for another, but the silos prevented that seamless flow. True synergy, in that context, required radical cross-functional collaboration and shared consciousness because complex problems couldn't be solved by isolated departments.
The solutions were in the connections.
Exactly. The solutions existed at the intersections, in the seamless flow of information and shared understanding. They had to transform into a team of teams where trust and communication bridged those traditional divides.
The Flight 173 example from McChrystal's book really sticks with you here, illustrating the dangers of that siloed thinking and rigid adherence to process.
It's a stark and tragic illustration. The FAA brought in NASA to analyze air crashes, and their findings were shocking. A full 70% stemmed from human error, often due to an attachment to procedure over purpose.
Procedure over purpose, that's chilling.
It is. The Flight 173 example is a perfect, painful case study. The crew of a United Airlines flight was dealing with a landing gear malfunction. They were following procedures perfectly meticulously, trying to retrieve flashlights, zip books, reassure passengers, all while burning through fuel.
Focused on the checklist, not the altitude.
Precisely. Their rigid adherence to these secondary procedures, their focus on doing things right, meant they lost sight of the ultimate primary goal, a safe landing. They were doing things right, just not doing the right thing. Synergy, in contrast, requires adaptability, a profound focus on the ultimate purpose, not just the process, especially when novel or unforeseen situations arise. It demands the breaking down of those traditional barriers, whether they be physical silos or mental adherence to outdated procedures, to enable the collaborative, creative problem-solving needed to address real-time challenges.
So how does this all play out in the real world? Let's look at some tangible examples where synergy, maybe born out of necessity or crisis, led to groundbreaking results rather than just incremental improvements. Howard Schultz's story with Starbucks comes to mind as a classic entrepreneurial tale.
The Starbucks story is indeed a classic and compelling example of entrepreneurial synergy, really highlighting the power of complementary strengths. Howard Schultz recounts the moment he joined forces with Dave Olson, recognizing that the synergy was too good to be true.
They saw the potential immediately.
Yeah. Schultz's genius, his strengths, were predominantly outward-looking. He was the visionary, adept at communicating the vision, inspiring investors, raising money, finding real estate, designing the stores, building the brand, and planning for future growth.
The front man, in a way.
Exactly. Dave, on the other hand, excelled at the inward operations, the nuts and bolts of operating a retail cafe, hiring and training baristas, ensuring the best quality coffee. These were two distinct yet equally vital skill sets.
Vision and execution.
Vision and execution.
So instead of competing against each other or staying in their own lanes, they recognize the exponential value of combining forces.
Exactly. Rather than becoming competitors or trying to fill each other's shoes, they made the incredibly intelligent decision to join forces, recognizing the exponential power of combining their complementary skills. This is a textbook example of achieving a third alternative, a global coffee giant far better than either could have achieved alone. Their combined vision and operational excellence built the Starbucks we know today.
It's a great story.
And Schultz also talks about how managing through a major coffee price crisis in the mid-90s, a period of immense external pressure, paradoxically made Starbucks a better company and forged our managers into a well-bonded team.
Crisis forged the team.
It did. Crisis can often force individuals to develop new skills, collaborate more intensely, and bond together in ways they wouldn't have under normal circumstances, demonstrating emergent collective capabilities and an unshakable team synergy that might not have been discovered otherwise.
That's fascinating how even external pressure can force a kind of synergy, revealing hidden strengths. What about corporate giants? General Motors, for instance, in its heyday, exemplified a different kind of synergy, maybe more structured.
Yeah, a different scale. Alfred P. Sloan Jr.'s account of General Motors' rise to preeminence is a fascinating illustration of corporate-level synergy, focused on coordinated strategy and operational efficiency across vast divisions. He describes how GM achieved its success through cooperation and coordination of our various policies and divisions, rather than letting each brand operate totally in isolation.
A coordinated federation.
Right. This federated policy in a wide-scope business like automotive manufacturing led to increased efficiency, reduced costs through economies of scale, and, crucially, a coherent market strategy that allowed them to cater to different customer segments without internal cannibalization.
Avoiding stepping on each other's toes.
Exactly.
And it led to a collective ambition and a raising of standards across the entire organization, didn't it?
Precisely. They understood that coordinated operation of our plant should result in greater efficiency, and that by raising our own standards in this way, we could reasonably expect to equal the best in any respect that our competition in any grade had to offer, and to exceed it in some respects.
Aiming higher together.
Right. This wasn't just about individual brand performance. It was a collective ambition and a coordinated effort across disparate units. A powerful form of synergy where shared goals and integrated operations led to sustained industry leadership, allowing GM to effectively compete at every price point.
Moving into more modern disruptive innovation. Elon Musk's ventures, like SpaceX and Tesla, often seem to embody this idea of creating new third alternatives by completely rethinking an industry.
Yeah, his approach often generates these third alternatives, maybe through a kind of meta synergy of engineering, finance, and sheer vision, even if it's not always explicitly about team synergy in Covey's direct interpersonal sense.
Okay.
Consider his spreadsheet for building rockets at a fraction of the cost, for example. He didn't just aim to build a slightly better rocket, he fundamentally reimagined the entire rocket industry's cost structure and market by targeting smaller satellites and research payloads.
Changing the whole game.
Changing the whole game. This wasn't just incremental improvement, it was about creating a completely new, viable path, undercutting existing launch companies. His commitment to removing obstacles for employees, things like paying for LASIK surgery, also subtly fosters an environment where individual innovation can thrive by empowering them to focus on what they do best without minor personal hindrances getting in the way.
Clearing the path for focus.
Right. And the Model S unveiling, even when the product wasn't fully polished, apparently it created a vision that united people.
Exactly. The Model S unveiling, despite the car apparently barely held together and some panels being stuck to the frame with magnets during the presentation.
Wow, really?
Yeah, according to the source. But it created an incredibly compelling vision. It didn't just showcase a product, it instilled the belief that Tesla had a credible plan and that its cars were glamorous and refined. This vision, despite the imperfections of the prototype, synergistically united investors, employees, and early adopters towards a common third alternative in the auto industry.
The vision pulled them forward.
It did. It demonstrated how a powerful shared vision can align disparate efforts and overcome significant technical hurdles even when the final product isn't fully realized yet.
And it's not always the first mover in an industry who gets this synergistic win, is it? Sometimes it's the one who learns and adapts best. No, in fact, Good to Great by Jim Collins highlights a common and maybe counterintuitive pattern. Second, or third, or fourth, followers prevailing over the early trailblazers.
Interesting. Like who?
Companies like IBM over Remington Rand in computers, Boeing over de Havilland in commercial jets, Palm over Apple in early PDAs, or AOL over CompuServe. These companies learned from others' mistakes, adapted their approaches, and found superior third alternatives by synthesizing market feedback and technological advancements.
Learning from the pioneers' mistakes.
Exactly. Boeing, for instance, didn't create the first commercial jet, but after de Havilland's early Comet jet failures due to structural issues, Boeing meticulously prioritized safety and reliability with the 707, ultimately dominating the airwaves.
They found the better path by watching first.
Right. This is a macro-level synergy of learning, adaptation, and strategic positioning within an industry, demonstrating that the ability to synthesize insights and refine approaches can be more powerful than simply being first to market. It's an intelligent collective evolution. #Tag5. Obstacles to synergy and how to overcome them.
So synergy is clearly a powerful force for breakthroughs, but it doesn't just happen automatically. We know that. There are significant obstacles that can prevent teams and organizations from ever reaching that multiplicative potential.
Definitely roadblocks.
And a big one seems to be resistance from existing structures and just ingrained mindsets. People get stuck.
That's a profound and often insidious challenge. Clayton Christensen in The Innovator's Dilemma articulates this brilliantly with his principle #4. An organization's capabilities define its disabilities.
Capabilities define disabilities. That sounds paradoxical.
It does, but it's a crucial insight for understanding why synergy often fails to materialize. Processes and values that are incredibly effective for success in one context can become significant disabilities in another, particularly when facing disruptive innovation.
What worked before holds you back now.
Exactly. For example, processes perfectly suited for managing the design and production of large, high-margin mini-computers were entirely ineffective for developing smaller, lower-margin desktop PCs. Similarly, organizational values that prioritize high-margin products inherently struggle to simultaneously prioritize low-margin disruptive ones because those new ventures just don't fit the established success criteria.
They don't look profitable enough soon enough.
Right. This internal friction, this organizational immune response, starves potential synergistic projects of the resources and attention they need to survive, let alone thrive.
And the engineers that control data perfectly illustrate this conflict of capabilities and disabilities, don't they?
They absolutely do. Engineers at Control Data who are leading 14-inch drive makers were chartered to develop innovative 8-inch drives, a potentially disruptive technology.
So they saw the need.
They saw the need, but they kept getting pulled off that project to solve problems with the existing 14-inch drives for more important existing customers. This continuously starved the disruptive 8-inch project of resources, preventing any real synergy with the new technology.
The urgent crowded out the important?
Precisely. The organizational capability to efficiently serve existing, profitable customers became a disability when it came to embracing and nurturing new innovation. It's a classic trap where the very success mechanisms of an organization inadvertently kill future synergistic opportunities.
It also seems to stem from a focus on the past instead of the future, locking into old ways of thinking and valuing things.
Precisely. This attachment to past metrics and paradigms is a significant hurdle. Think about Michael Milken's success with junk bonds, as vividly described in Liar's Poker. Part of his edge was because he saw the existing credit rating system as fundamentally flawed, because it focused on the past when it should have focused on the future. Traditional ratings looked at historical solvency, existing assets, track record. Milken, however, looked at the future earning potential and growth trajectory of companies.
Potential versus history.
Exactly. His willingness to challenge these deeply ingrained assumptions and paradigms, to completely redefine what creditworthy meant, created a completely new market, a third alternative for financing companies previously considered unfundable. He essentially ignored the conventional wisdom that valued historical stability over future potential, which enabled a whole new type of capital formation and economic synergy.
Beyond structural resistance and outdated mindsets, though, a major obstacle we discussed earlier, and one that resonates deeply, is the lack of psychological safety and just fundamental communication failures.
This is foundational. If the environment isn't safe, people simply won't engage in the vulnerability required for synergy. Covey notes quite powerfully that if you don't feel safe, you won't expose my opinions and experiences and my tender feelings.
Those tender feelings again.
Right. This immediately stifles the crucial, unique input needed for true synergy. Furthermore, he adds a profound corollary. Unless you're influenced by my uniqueness, I'm not going to be influenced by your advice.
That's interesting. It has to go both ways.
It has to go both ways.
Yeah.
It creates a fundamental barrier to mutual understanding and cooperation, locking individuals into their own separate paradigms. There's no incentive to integrate if you don't feel heard or valued.
And that ties directly into how we typically listen, doesn't it? Most of us are not listening to truly understand. We're waiting to talk.
It absolutely does. Covey famously points out that most people listen with the intent to reply, filtering everything through their own paradigms, their own experiences, their own agendas.
Planning our response while they're still talking.
Exactly. This prevents genuine understanding and, critically, the ability to combine perspectives synergistically. We project our own home movies onto other people's behavior, as he puts it, instead of truly empathizing, stepping into another's frame of reference to grasp their viewpoint deeply. We're too busy formulating our rebuttal or our next point to truly hear.
He gives that great inverted example of the father and son, which really highlights this.
Yes, the father who couldn't understand his teenage son because his son wouldn't listen to him, it perfectly demonstrates this inverted logic and communication breakdown.
The father thought the son needed to listen first.
Right. The father believed his son needed to listen for him to understand the situation, rather than recognizing that he as the parent needed to listen to his son first, empathically, to truly grasp his son's perspective. Without that initial empathic listening, without putting your own agenda aside to fully grasp the other's viewpoint, you can't build on it to create something new together.
You're just talking past each other.
Completely.
And then there are the stark counterexamples, like Enron, where secrecy and siloed behavior actively work against any possibility of synergy, leading to catastrophic results.
The Enron Global Finance team, under Andy Fasto, is a powerful, cautionary, anti-synergy example, as recounted in The Smartest Guys in the Room. This team was described as tight-knit, secretive, and seemingly untouchable.
Not open at all.
Not at all. Fasto would deliberately hold crucial meetings without the corporate treasurer, actively freezing him out, and apparently, outsiders were not allowed to attend global finance meetings.
Wow. Building walls.
Building high walls. This incredibly insular approach, while perhaps creating internal cohesion within that small, secretive group, actively prevented true synergy with the broader organization.
Yeah.
It shut out diverse perspectives, critical scrutiny, and crucial checks and balances, fostering an illusion of success and ultimately contributing directly to the company's catastrophic collapse.
A stark warning.
A very stark warning. It's a vivid illustration of how the absence of transparency and cross-functional collaboration, the very antithesis of synergy, can lead to disastrous outcomes because vital information and dissenting viewpoints are deliberately excluded.
Finally, we need to consider the danger of prizing efficiency over adaptability. We heard this with the Flight 173 example, but it's a broader lesson, isn't it?
Yes, McChrystal's Flight 173 example highlights the profound dangers of prizing efficiency over adaptability. While procedures and efficiency are undeniably valuable for predictable tasks, rigid adherence to them can prevent effective and creative responses to unforeseen, complex circumstances, leading to disastrous outcomes.
When the situation changes, the procedure might be wrong.
Exactly. Synergy, by its very nature, requires the flexibility to adapt and create new solutions, even if they deviate from established processes to achieve the ultimate purpose. It's about understanding that sometimes the most efficient path in the short term, the one that strictly follows the rulebook, isn't the most effective or safest path in a dynamic, complex environment.
You need judgment, not just rules.
You need judgment. You need to be able to pause, assess the new reality, and collaboratively forge a new, synergistic path that prioritizes the ultimate goal over rigid adherence to a potentially outdated process. This requires a team that trusts each other enough to innovate on the fly.
So when we successfully navigate these significant obstacles, the resistance, the lack of trust, the communication failures, the rigidity, and truly embrace synergy, what's the ultimate outcome? It sounds like it's far more than just getting along better.
It is indeed profoundly transformative. When genuine synergy occurs, the solution isn't just a compromise. It's a better answer for both of us, as Covey describes it.
Better for everyone involved.
Yes. It transcends the limitations of individual thinking, creating a solution that truly unlocks new value and greater satisfaction for all parties involved. This isn't settling, it's elevating. It's the moment where everyone realizes that the solution found together is far superior to anything they initially brought to the table.
That aha moment you mentioned.
That collective aha moment.
And this isn't just a one-off event, is it? It's something that contributes to continuous improvement, almost an upward spiral.
Absolutely. Synergy, when cultivated regularly, contributes to an upward spiral of growth and change, of continuous improvement. This is enabled by constant renewal in physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional dimensions, which is Covey's seventh habit, sharpen the saw.
They feed each other.
They feed each other. When individuals and teams are continuously renewing themselves, investing in their capabilities and well-being, they bring fresh energy, diverse knowledge, and enhanced capabilities to the synergistic process, fueling further breakthroughs. It creates a positive feedback loop. Synergy leads to better outcomes, which builds trust, which encourages more synergy, and so on.
Covey also talks about achieving quantum improvements in performance by focusing on Quadrant 2 activities. For listeners who might not be steeped in the 7 Habits framework, could you quickly remind us what those Quadrant 2 activities are and why they're so crucial for synergistic outcomes?
Sure. Quadrant 2 activities are what Covey famously calls important but not urgent. Think about proactive planning, building and maintaining relationships, continuous learning and development, identifying new opportunities, or deep strategic thinking.
The stuff we know we should do but often don't have time for.
Exactly. These are the things that prevent future crises and build long-term capacity and effectiveness, as opposed to Quadrant First, which is all about urgent, reactive problem-solving and firefighting. Synergy thrives in that Quadrant 2 space precisely because it's where you have the time and mental bandwidth to truly collaborate creatively, to engage in deep empathic listening, to explore diverse perspectives without the pressure of an immediate crisis.
You need space for it.
You need space for it. It's where you invest in the conditions that make synergy possible rather than just reacting to its absence when a crisis hits.
The example of the marketing director delegating sales meeting preparation is a great illustration of this Quadrant 2 synergistic approach in action.
It truly is a perfect illustration. Instead of the marketing director preparing the sales meeting agenda alone, relying solely on their own perspective and risking a less relevant outcome.
Which is probably faster in the short term.
Probably faster, yes, but less effective. A Quadrant 2 approach would be to delegate that task to a diverse group of employees. This group, perhaps representing sales, product, maybe even customer service, could be challenged and trained to conduct a thorough analysis of salespeople's needs, gather feedback from various stakeholders, and then constructively and creatively interact to bring a relevant finalized recommendation back to the director.
So it's an investment in the team's capability, too.
Exactly. This moves the process from a single person's effort to a powerful, synergistic team outcome. It not only produces a far better, more relevant agenda, but it also develops the team's capacity for long-term, interdependent problem solving and builds their ownership and commitment to the outcome.
And ultimately, this leads to something unique and inimitable for organizations, right? A real competitive advantage that's hard to copy.
Precisely. From strategic flexibility, Gary Hamel and his colleagues emphasized that the purpose of investing in an experimental discovery process, which is inherently synergistic, is to help firms create the rare, inimitable combinations of resources thought to play such a central role in renewing competitive position.
Rare and inimitable combinations.
Right. Synergy is a key mechanism for this. When different perspectives, skills, and ways of thinking truly combine to produce these third alternatives, those solutions are often profoundly unique to that specific organizational context. They can't be easily copied or replicated by competitors because they emerge from the unique interplay of people, culture, and specific challenges within that organization.
It's embedded in the way they work together.
Exactly. This ties directly back to the idea of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. It's about creating something so uniquely integrated and dynamic that it forms an unassailable strength, a truly sustainable competitive advantage that isn't just about a product, but about a way of working together. Tag outro.
So as we've unpacked today, synergy isn't just a feel-good buzzword for teamwork. It's really the profound, almost miraculous sometimes, ability to create a third alternative that is genuinely superior to anything an individual could achieve alone. And it's rooted in high trust, open communication, and a genuine active appreciation for diverse perspectives.
Can't fake those.
You fake them.
Can't fake them.
It's about consciously building those emotional bank accounts through consistent acts of respect, challenging directly but with care to foster growth, and relentlessly breaking down the silos and rigid mindsets that stifle true innovation.
This deep dive into synergy really reveals that true competitive advantage, both personally and professionally, comes not from individual brilliance in isolation, but from the dynamic, often messy, yet incredibly powerful process of creative cooperation.
Messy but powerful. I like that.
Yeah. It's about finding that unique blend of strengths and trusting the process of genuine exchange to reveal entirely new possibilities. So the question for you is, how might you, in your own life and work, actively seek out and foster those third alternatives, knowing that the greatest breakthroughs often lie beyond the obvious choices, beyond simple compromise, and really within the rich tapestry of diverse human connection?
What stands out to you from this deep dive? We encourage you to reflect on how you can apply the principles of synergy in your own teams and relationships to not just solve problems, but maybe to invent entirely new, better futures together. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.